All right, we have our last group for this session. So they are doing MLB recent rule changes and the effects on the length of the game. And here we have Josh Hebrink, Scott Lyon, and Nathan Boyce. All right, well, take it away.
Thank you. So for our thesis, we did the recent rule changes of Major League Baseball and how they've affected the MLB and the MILB, which is the minor league baseball, and how it's going to affect to make the game shorter and allow for more action within the game and an attempt to reach a younger audience.
All right, so looking at the length of the game before these recent rule changes, you can see that before 2014, that games were around 2.5 hours. But in 2015, and then ever since then, the games have averaged 3.04 hours, and that's just due to people taking longer for like getting the bats, like getting up to the plate, and just pitchers taking longer between pitches. So kind of that throughout a 9-inning game, that adds up to being around 3 hours.
When we talk about lack of action for the rule changes, the league-wide batting average was down to 243, which was the lowest since 1968. And this was partly due to the defensive shifts. The MLB also made rule changes after the 1968 season when the batting average was that low, where they shrunk the strike zone down and lowered the pitching mound. The stealing attempts per game were also down to 1.6, and the successful steals were also down to 1.1. And the rule changes that they've made have tried to increase stealing attempts.
So attendance before the rule changes was in 2022. The league-wide average is 26,400 or 843, with the lowest being Oakland, which was 9,973, and the highest being the LA Dodgers, which is 47,671, with the Braves actually being in fourth at around 38,000 fans. And this has actually been on a steady decline ever since the 2012 season, excluding the 2020 and 2021 seasons because of COVID, because 2020 people were not allowed to be at the games. And in 2021, they were very limited and very skeptical on allowing people back into the games.
TV viewership before the rule changes was also down. The 2022 World Series was the second least watched ever behind the 2020 World Series. And the 2022 All-Star Game was down to a record low of 7.5 million viewers. And Fox Sports regular season viewership was down 12%.
So some of the new rules that have been added is they added a pitch clock, which this pitch clock has multiple different rules. And that of if there's no runners on, the pitcher has 15 seconds from the moment he catches the ball inside of the pitching circle, 20 seconds if there's runners on, and he's allowed 2 disengagements of the rubber, which is the only way that the 2 disengagements can be reset is the ball can either be put in play or a base runner can advance to a new base. So it could be a stolen base or just wild pitch, any way that they can advance forward to the next base. And what they rule as a disengagement is that the pitcher's back foot can either step off, or they include pickoffs with this as well, which means that if they do pick off twice, they cannot pick off on a runner again, which opens up for more chances of steal attempts. The batter must also be ready when the pitcher is at at 8 seconds on the clock. And so that allows for 7 seconds for him to get into the box with no runners on, and 12 seconds for him to get in the box with runners on. And there's also been a between innings clock that they've added, which just gives the batters 2 minutes between each, or gives the team 2 minutes between each inning. And it's a little misleading too, though, because the last pitch that the pitcher throws actually has to be thrown at 1 minute and 35 seconds.
So some of the other rules was the 3-batter pitcher rule, which has to face 3 batters or finish an inning, which was put in place after the 2019 season. Another rule is no shifts, so there has to be two infielders on each side of second base. And both those infielders at the time of the pitch have to have their both feet inside of the dirt. And then, so the last rule change was, they've added bigger bases to try and like get more steals. So the base, like the size of the base has increased from 15 square inches to 18 square inches. So rule changes have affected the length of the game. So in spring training, they were, with these rules, games were 26 minutes shorter for an average of 2 hours and 35 minutes compared to 3 hours and 1 minute in last year's spring training. And then during like spring training this year, they had the World Baseball Classic, which was 35 minutes longer than spring training games, where the World Baseball Classic didn't have any of these pace of play rules. And so this has also made baseball more action packed. Stolen base attempts have jumped from around 1.6 per game to 2.3 per game, and the successful attempts have jumped from 71% to 77%. In the first 50 games of the season so far, there have been 70 successful steal attempts compared to the 39 steal attempts from 2022. And then batting averages on balls in play, which is when a ball gets hit in a field of play. Those batting averages have jumped from 314 to 327 for lefties. So it shows that the shift has allowed for more hit, or taking away the shift has allowed for more hits.
These rule changes have also found to make an impact on TV viewership. ESPN reported its most watched spring training in 7 years. The 4-game afternoon averaged 378,000 viewers, which was up 29%. And games were ending earlier, which will allow more kids to watch the games.
So yeah, the predicted economic impact was, the goal was to reach a younger viewership. And with the way that students are younger adults and students are at nowadays, is that their attention spans have actually gotten shorter, and they're just more likely to go do other things like get on video games or just go to sleep in some situations. A previous issue was that the games seemed too long, and it potentially caused especially the night games to run too long, to where the younger viewership was not actually allowed to stay up, because most parents will have their kids in bed by 9-10 o'clock. And if the games are running longer than that, the kids aren't getting to see the end of the game. So why are they wanting to watch the beginning of the games if they can't see the end of the games? And ultimately, this means that more fans is going to be more spending money. So over time, they're trying to get the viewership to grow again, which would be more people spending more money, more people going to the games.
A little bit more about the economic impact. There was concern from MLB owners and executives that there will be less concession money made because of the shorter game times. But the fans, this will hopefully not be true, because fans will stay the entirety of the game now instead of leaving early, so the concessions will stay the same. And bettors will have less time to make in-game bets on individual pitches. But an MLB executive researched it and said that this only represents a small portion of betting, and that bets will now be placed on full inning bets instead of just individual pitches.
That's all we have. Any questions? With most of the rule changes, yes.
How many games have you watched so far this year?
Probably 10.
So for what it's worth, I heard a story yesterday that cricket is being introduced in the US, the cricket team. And they were looking to replicate some of the rule changes so that they can gain an entire audience, not just younger viewers, but all Americans generally. And then spend like that.
Do you think the rule changes affects the way the game's been played now? Strategically?
Yes, I do, because it actually allows for less time for the coaches to determine what they're wanting to do, or less time for a pitcher to think about what pitch he wants to throw. So it could lead to potentially pitchers throwing a pitch that they wouldn't have liked, and it leads to a hitter hitting the ball hard.
Plus you got more steals and probably more willingness to put the ball in play.
How many of these rule changes have trickled down to college baseball?
So we also have a pitch clock. We also have the between innings clock. We have not went to the bigger bases, but I don't feel like there's really a need for that. And there's been a few other rules. Oh yeah, we can still shift as well. They haven't included the shifting rule for us.
So does Scotty think that a bigger base would be better because he runs the bases?
For him, probably because he's slow and he's as much help as he can get.
Well, if you hit it over the fence, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
Do you feel like the number of pickoff attempts allowed is increasing the number of steals? Like at second base, you only got.
Yeah. So I feel like it will in a long-term amount of time. It will definitely affect the number of steal attempts. In the short sample that we have up to this point in the season, I'm unaware if there's actually a big impact on it, but I do think that there will be an impact over the course of a 162 game season with 30 teams.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Thanks everyone for coming to this session. This one's over and there's going to be a new one starting soon. If you have not signed in, remember there are QR codes at the back of the room. Thank you.